July 4, Wednesday. The team of divers, medics, and counselors swam to where the children were. They swam it for 6 hours because the roads are so far and difficult. They accompanied the children inside the cave. "We swam for 6 hours before we arrived at your location," said the rescuers. They also had doctors with them, and this was Doc Pak Loharshan treated the children's wounds. This doctor accompanied the children. He acted as the instructor on how to get the children out of the cave. "I have to make sure that you are strong and healthy, while you are still inside until you swim out of the cave." Meanwhile, outside the cave, heavy rain poured, and the rescuers and governor said that there could be many flash floods that will cause the water to fill the cave again. Despite the removal of 30 million gallons of water, there is still a lot of water inside the cave. If the water continues to rise, the children still have to stay inside the cave until the end of the rainy season. That's what the governor said. But that is not the right solution, they say, because the number of people with children increased inside the cave. The oxygen remaining in the cave is gradually depleted. Because the oxygen where the children are is only 15%. This is very dangerous because the safe level of oxygen should be 21%. So they have two enemies here: the oxygen will run out, and a flash flood threatens, so the divers left in a hurry to get diving equipment for the child. July 5, Thursday. On the outside, all ways for the children to get out of the cave were carefully studied and discussed, so even placing an oxygen pipe inside the cave was an option to replace the oxygen that was missing. The rescuers began to plan and placed a rope line in the path of the oxygen pipe. They also explored the steep and curved passages inside the cave. For the children to swim out, they have to dive under the water, swim up through the narrow and steep passages, and repeat the same process. Samarn is a retired Navy diver. He is the one who volunteered to place oxygen cylinders on the evacuation path, to protect the oxygen tanks that may be damaged during the rescue. Meanwhile, inside the cave, Coach Ake started giving the children a mindset and reminded them to be positive in rescuing them. "Think about the first thing you'll do when you get out of the cave," Coach Ake said. But in truth what Coach Ake has in mind is that everyone will blame him for why such an experience happened to the children. What he didn't know was that the children's parents thanked him. Because when Coach Ake isn't with the kids in the cave are doomed. So the parents replied to Coach Ake's letter and said, "Don't blame yourself, it's not your fault, Coach." The parents told the kids not to worry and be afraid because their parents are not mad at them. July 6, Friday. The Thailand Navy Samarn is already underwater to be placed in the proper position of oxygen. When he was at the bottom, he thought carefully about where to put it because the road was very narrow. Because if he makes a mistake when positioning the tank, it may hit the heads of passers-by. When he lowered it, it was difficult for passers-by to pick up the tank. When he was looking for a place to put the tank, he didn't realize that the oxygen in his tank had run out. This is still the only thing that supports him in breathing underwater. The problem is that he's still too far from the entrance and he is still deep in the water, so he gradually had trouble breathing, which caused his death. He was the only one who died in this rescue operation. July 7, Saturday. The whole world was shocked by the death of a diver, so there was much grief over this incident. They worried that the children might not survive either. So even though the governor has not yet recovered from the death of the diver, he ordered the divers to dive down and find the children, while there was still enough oxygen in the cave. The problem is that none of the children know how to swim. Meanwhile, Coach talked to the children. "Boys, they need to put you under anesthesia, to put you to sleep while they put you out, so you don't panic under the water. You need to comply and cooperate," what Coach X said. "Each one of you will have divers swimming with you while other divers are waiting for each station we pass." They were also talked to as divers. "We are professional divers from different countries. To help you, so you need to trust us." The children agreed. July 8, Sunday. 13 professional divers and 5 Thai Navy divers practiced what they would do in rescue. They planned it well when they perfected it. They had prepared for their rescue operation when they were inside the cave. They discussed which of the children they would take out first. The children suggested who among them could swim a bit, and who was the healthiest. But they still talked and decided whose house was the farthest from the cave. They were the first to be released, so the divers got ready. And here they injected the children with anesthesia, and they quickly fell asleep. So none of them knew how they got out of the cave. While they were sleeping, oxygen was placed on them, and the floating rubber mat was also wrapped around them. The oxygen cylinder is carried by the diver body assigned to each child. The British division's Risk Tanton, Jason Mallinson, and Chris Jewell were a bit tense in the first 5 of their 10 minutes underwater. They observed that as long as there were air bubbles they could see, they knew the children were breathing. They set up the SEAL Command Center about 300 meters away from the entrance to the cave, and this they called Chamber 3. It took them 4 hours before they were placed in Chamber 3. When they rescued the 4 children, they announced it to those waiting outside the cave. Someone shouted. The 4 were out, they were out safely. Everyone was overjoyed to see the 4 children safe. They check up immediately and monitor the side effects of the anesthesia. They asked if they could walk. They said yes. The newscaster announced that the 4 children were taken in a helicopter and taken to the hospital. The children's parents were even interviewed about why they were not allowed to come near their children. One of the parents said that the children are still weak, and they avoid infecting children who might infect them. At the hospital, an entire floor was set aside just for children. He said they need to be checked if is possible that they had a lung infection from bats and bird droppings. And check their temperature, maybe they had hypothermia because of the time they were exposed to the cold cave and water. The divers rest first and conclude the next operation. July 9 to 10, after the divers rested for a day, they returned to the cave to rescue the other children. In each rescue batch, they get 4 children out, and after another day, the last 4 children, along with Coach Ake who has already been taken out of the cave. The last one released was the doctor. The entire world rejoiced at the successful rescue of the children. Meanwhile, they check up the children. They saw that the children had lost a lot of weight. They are on a soft diet and cannot eat solid foods, so that their stomachs don't get shocked. As for the parents of the children, when they go to the room, they must wear protective clothing and cannot approach them. And while the children were still recovering at the hospital, they paid tribute to the diver Samarn Konan who died while he was trying to rescue them. His family is suffering and mourning because of them. The children said that when they recovered, they became monks for 11 days, to pay tribute to the deceased diver. To his wife, family, and especially to the children, Samarn is a hero. Meanwhile, the divers who rescued the children have returned to their normal lives. The whole of Thailand thanked the divers who helped the children. Here we can see that no matter what place you are, as long as we work together we can achieve success.